Welcome to Legends in Leadership, brought to you by ISF and the Carrington Group. Legends in Leadership is an inspirational podcast featuring the stories of leaders who are making a difference. Our goal is to inspire you with the stories of leaders who come from humble beginnings, overcome challenges, and ultimately rise up to make a difference in people's lives.
Well, hello, folks. This is Tyler Tallman. I want to welcome you to Legends in Leadership. I am a family officer with the Carrington Group and excited to be here with my co-host today, Dr. Blair Ritchie, the Executive Director of the International Student Foundation, and one of my partners, Jason Smith, also a family officer with the Carrington Group. We like to kick off all of our shows with a little bit of leadership trivia. We are fascinated by the stories of leaders like us who come from humble beginnings and then rise up as leaders to make a difference in people's lives. So, Dr. Blair, what do you have teed up for us today in the trivia category?
All right, I've got a fun one today. This legend in leadership was actually fired in his first job. Not a great way to begin your career. And here's what he did to get fired. He was doing this experiment, a chemical experiment, and he leaked acid onto his boss's desk. His boss canned him for that.
Was it his first day?
Yeah. Well, here's the great part of the story. He would go on to encounter many failures, just like that. But the leader had an amazing attitude, and he had this persistence that refused to label all those things as failures. Instead, those failures were simply lessons that were part of his education. He may have been penniless for most of his life, but he did become the most prolific inventor of his generation. Who was this legend in leadership? I'll be back at the end of the show with the answer.
Fantastic. We look forward to hearing the answer to that. Very interesting. I'm very excited about today's guest, Lacey Shrum. I had the opportunity to get to hear Lacey speak at a Dallas CPA and Dallas Bar Association event a couple of weeks back, and I have to tell you, I was overly impressed by how well that Lacey was able to handle a room full of attorneys and CPAs talking about a fairly complex topic based around cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. So instantly she won me over by being able to deal with them. Lacey is an attorney. She's an entrepreneur. Her primary focus is on multiple projects implementing a traditional legal document into smart contracts. She's a member of a hackathon team using blockchain to solve common inefficiencies in the ranching and agricultural industry. By the way, she's going to make fun of me in a little while about what I think a hackathon is. But anyway, we'll get to that. In her legal capacity, she advises emerging blockchain companies with business formation, fundraising, and risks particular to this new technology. She's got a company, H7 Consulting, that provides compliance consulting for RIA firms and private funds with a specific focus on digital asset funds. She's a blockchain advocate, an educator. Lacey hosts a blog and a monthly breakfast aimed at introducing those that are not traditionally involved in the technology space to blockchain and its effect on their careers, businesses, and lives. She's a regular speaker on blockchain, smart contract use cases, and investing in cryptocurrencies, and she's one of the founding members of the North Texas Blockchain Alliance. Her most proud thing in her life, though, is being a mother of two. Her current favorite status is watching them grow and learn. And I like that her and her husband, Josh, like to call themselves dedicated wanderers. And what they mean by that is they love to enjoy travel, close or far from home, to take in the sights and meet new people. So, Lacey, it's great to have you on the show. Excited to hear your story and for you to be able to share your story with our listening audience. Before we dive into all this complicated stuff around cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, we want to hear a little bit about your journey. Where did you grow up, and what did you learn growing up that helped you most as a leader?
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So that was a wonderful intro. I'd love to have you just come with me and introduce me. That would be lovely. But thank you, all three of you, for having me. This has been so much fun, and I really look forward to it. So I grew up in a small town in southwestern Montana, Dillon, Montana. It's agriculture focused, construction, tourism. I grew up there. That was late 90s, early 2000s, determining where to go to college. And I just saw the University of Texas, and I just said, I'm going there. And so I applied. My counselors told me I wouldn't get in. There's no sense in even applying. And I applied. I talked someone into letting me in. I then later talked someone into giving me a scholarship. And I had plans to go to another college. My parents had paid that tuition, and I was going there. And then I visited Austin, and I said, I'm coming to Texas. So I just figured out a way to make that happen. Went to UT. After college, came up to Dallas to work, started law school at SMU, got my law degree, and I worked as a client service associate, and then a CCO and general counsel, then had my own startup, which we can talk a little bit about, and got into the crypto and blockchain space, and here I am.
Awesome. An amazing story. I'm curious, you're an attorney by trade, but your background really is, it's a reflection on your entrepreneurship. You're really an entrepreneur by heart. How did you decide to get into law, and what fascinated you about the world of digital currency that propelled you into the role that you really are serving in the business community today?
Yeah, I was always going to go to law school, and that probably wasn't for the right reasons at the time, but as expensive and difficult as law school is, it does teach you a new skill set that can be used anywhere, whether you're practicing at a big firm downtown, you're running your own business, you don't work. I mean, whatever you're doing, you can use that skill set. So after I got my law degree, and we started the Loyal Closet, which is a tool to help professional women get dressed in the morning and purchase clothing items for their professional career. We were told that we needed a bunch of technology built out, and my co-founder and I are both attorneys. We didn't know technology. That was something someone else did. It was this secret room that we weren't supposed to be in. And we had reached sort of a pivotal point in our build out of, are we really going to do this? And we had a competitor come out that was a really great product that is highly funded. And so I just took the opportunity to I'm going to learn to code. I'm going to learn basic coding, take a basic coding class. Is it something that I can really do? Is it a secret society? And I did that. And the law degree really put me in a good space to succeed at that. The two skill sets are very similar and complementary. So I thought it was a very welcoming world and a place that I liked to be with the skills that I had. And so, and then in my other space in my life, I was still doing compliance consulting. And last summer, as we saw the rise of cryptocurrencies, clients started asking their firms that were managing their money about cryptocurrencies and what that meant. So that's how I started learning more in that space, and then got the blockchain bug, as they say, and just kind of took off.
That's fantastic. So the goal when we talk about cryptocurrency and blockchain technology is not to lose 95% of our listeners. So we were talking a little bit about that together, and you have this interesting perspective around people being empowered to know about cryptocurrency and to know about blockchain technology and what that means. So tell me, what should people know about cryptocurrency, and how is it really affecting or impacting, rather, the world that we live in today?
That's a big question. I think what people need to know is that we're at the very, very beginning stages of a technology that will be revolutionary to us really as humans. And the differentiation, I'd like to differentiate blockchain from cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency does have a bad rap out there right now. It is something I think that will be part of our future, but blockchain is the tool to make that cryptocurrency work. So think about like the internet and email. email requires the internet to work, but the internet does so many other things besides just email. Cryptocurrency requires blockchain to work, but blockchain can do so many other things besides just cryptocurrency. So the biggest takeaway that I like to send people with is just there's this technology out there, and you don't need a special skill set to learn it. You don't need to be a master at calculus. It's all the data that you need to learn is on the internet. You just need to go find it. And so finding something that they're passionate about and how blockchain can apply to that, and just kind of kicking off that learning transition and just continually to keep learning about it.
It's really fascinating stuff. So let's talk a little bit about blockchain technology and some of the applications that you see that are really practical for the mainstream consumer to understand. Where do you see it in the near future, and then looking out a little bit further, really becoming impactful? In what environments do you see that happening?
Sure. So the core thing to understand about blockchain is it's a distributed immutable ledger. So as you saw in the presentation, that with attorneys and CPAs, we could debate that for a long time, but we don't need to go down that path, though I'm happy to. But it's a distributed immutable ledger, so you can trust the truth of it. And of course, the first place you see this is Bitcoin. Bitcoin, for all the negative things that are said, it is the most secure piece of software written. Bitcoin itself has not been compromised, despite the honeypot that is the amount of money that it's worth now. So that was really the first use case, and really for the deep enthusiasts, like the most beautiful use case. And then you saw other blockchains coming about. Ethereum is the most popular one that smart contracts can be written on. And smart contracts can be legal contracts, or they can just be a set of code. But where you're seeing right now, after Bitcoin, you're seeing a lot of this in supply chain management. So Walmart and IBM did a great case study using blockchain technology and smart contracts in food distributions and tracking a piece of food from seed to store shelf. And this does a lot of things. It helps farmers maintain title to their land, get loans, get equity. It helps us track food. So if we do have an outbreak, like a spinach outbreak, we're able to determine where exactly that spinach came from within seconds versus within years. This protects the consumer, this protects the stores, this protects the farmers. So you're seeing it being implemented in supply chain very quickly, just as this technology is developing. I do believe that we'll see it in the legal field significantly through the use of smart contracts and taking a traditional legal contract and putting code behind it so that it can actually execute. So if you and I have an agreement, if we have a bet on the TCU Texas game, we can have a traditional contract and we can have that bet. And when Texas wins, I'll need to track you down. I'll have to come up here and find you for my $100. And with a smart contract, we're able to both put that money in escrow in code, and that code watches for that score to post. And as soon as it does, it executes the contract. So then I get my $100 back and I get your $100 and we move on. So I think the market will start demanding a lot of that efficiency from the legal world.
She's already taking football stabs at me, I see. College football is alive and well, right?
I should be taking them very conservatively.
After your opening loss, I would.
So there were reports about some breaches related to blockchain, but not the blockchain itself. Could you talk a little bit about maybe how the media didn't report accurately what actually happened, so that folks trying to understand the blockchain can separate maybe some of the security features built into the underlying technology versus some of the maybe not 100% accurate reports that came out about the blockchain security?
Yeah, that's a loaded question about fake news.
I didn't intend it to be, sorry.
Yeah, the media sensationalizes a lot of what's out there. And I think the most important thing for people to remember is we are at 1992 of the internet. And as one of my friends says, like, we're watching a JPEG load like this, like slowly. And maybe most people don't believe in the internet even. Or, I mean, it's moving at a very glacial pace, but now I can pull up and watch Game of Thrones on my phone streaming. So we're at the very beginning stages, and when anything starts out, there are going to be a lot of mistakes to get one thing to work. So, as an entrepreneur, you got to try 99 things, just hoping that one of those things works. And so you do see, the DAO hack was probably the most significant, where we did have the baseline of the blockchain, and then we had code that was built on top of it, and that code was what is compromised. And that's coding. That's writing any
Right.
program. That's going to happen, and the programming languages that are being used are still just baby programming languages. So they're not being built out. They're not completely built out. So we're at a space right now where a lot of mistakes are going to happen. And Bitcoin is another great example. Everyone thinks that's what you use to do illegal things, where you can just as easily use cash to do illegal things. But that core technology, what makes it really special is that it is distributed. It's not housed in one central authority, so no one person has control over it or the responsibility of protecting it. And it's cryptographically secure, so there are many different ways of using a public blockchain that are being built that doesn't actually put your information on the blockchain. That is a lot of math and a lot of game theory. But then the idea that it's immutable, this ledger cannot be changed. It can be amended. It's like a best use case or a best practice in accounting. If you change something, you amend it. You don't actually go back and change it. And the blockchain forces you to stick to this. You cannot change what's been written because this chain of blocks, that's all blockchain is repeating every certain amount of minutes or time. And every time it gets repeated, it makes it difficult and then simply impossible to go back and change what the original written piece was. So this immutability is really, really special, and is what gives blockchain its importance and how it can change simple things that we do in our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Buying
So
a
you
house
mentioned-
is probably the biggest one.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, kind of being in the 1992 of the internet, I'm curious, what about being a leader in sort of a bleeding edge technology? What, I guess, aspects of leadership do you feel you need in order to continue to help blaze that trail?
Resiliency and just being gritty. You just kind of, it's funny, the universe, you kind of think you're on this path, and then some days I'm sitting in my office and I'm like, what if this isn't it? Like, what if I'm just like a complete lunatic, that this goes down in history? And then something will happen and you're like, no, this is it. And I think just trusting your gut. The best decisions in my life have always been made just kind of by knowing. That's not a very good way to say it, but and just like keeping at it and keeping learning and putting myself out there. And you don't know everything. Nobody can know everything about this, but putting yourself out there and just learning a bit more every day.
Yeah. Lacey, I'm curious. You're somebody who takes chances. I can tell by just your story and that some of your entrepreneurial spirit that comes out. Who would you consider to be your top 2 or 3 influences in your life through this journey to get where you are, and how have they impacted you? What are the things that you've learned from them?
Biggest influence really is where I grew up. So my dad, my family, they're all entrepreneurs, and I think now it's this term that's, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to have a startup. I want to go raise a Series A. But people have been doing that. Farmers and ranchers have been doing that for a long time and been very successful at it. So just watching people in my community just like tinker with stuff. And my dad was a rancher, and then he liked auctioneering. So he started an auctioneering company, and it wasn't, these great grand events where he went out and announced. He just started doing it and became really good at it. So there's so many people in my community that I grew up in that, you're just always tinkering and trying new things. And if something works, it works, and you go with it. And if not, you just try something different. We talked about books, what leadership books. Of course, Lean In. I think setting at the table is the biggest part of being a leader is just showing up and sitting at the table and putting yourself out there. But I read some history, and Teddy Roosevelt is my favorite president. And one thing that I really admire about him is he was born a very sickly child. So ill. His parents were told he would probably live at home. He wasn't, he didn't have a lot of physical strength. And he kind of took that as a challenge and defied the odds against him, and started by working out, by athletically training. Then, of course, it's going out west, and then it's running for president. It's going to Africa. It's going to the Amazon, risking his life. And so just like forcing himself to be strong and tough and resilient, I think is a very admirable quality.
We were talking earlier about these days, it feels like the Wild West. I think you actually use that in terms of the whole technology side of it is. And what does it take to be successful in the Wild West? Because we think that day's gone, that day's in the past, but it's not, is it? In a technology sense, it's very much a Wild West out there.
It is. And I think blockchain's a perfect example of just, there's a lot of land out there we can go grab and take up and learn, and that's how I've learned all this, and it's just seeing that opportunity and going to take it.
Well, talk about that, because to me, I'm always fascinated about attitude, and the kind of attitude that can see opportunity and overcome the fears and the failures and all that. So talk about the kind of attitude it takes to survive in this kind of opportunity.
For me, I would say it's an attitude that is supplemented and uplifted by those around me, particularly my husband. Just that attitude of you've got to be continually chasing things and looking for things and seeing what things you can succeed at and work at and try. And you've also got to know when to leave something aside and move on to the next thing. And then you wonder, am I just chasing shiny things all the time? So it is a mental game for sure. But it's just sticking with it and like every day getting a little bit better. It's like working out. You have to go every single day. You have to adjust your diet every single day, and you just get better over time. And there's not a quick fix of we're going to go out and lose 30 pounds in a week. You just every day you have to learn a little bit more.
I'm curious, Lacey, as I look at our culture today, technology surely has impacted the way that we communicate and various other things. But what do you see as the greatest challenge that leaders are facing going forward?
What, like
it just in our current environment? I mean, for instance, blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. I mean, you are pioneering and trying to work some kind of unknown grounds and territory. So what do you see some of the greatest challenges that you face moving forward in that space and those leaders that are around you?
In that space, the hardest thing right now is, we're sitting on the edge of something that I believe will be really great, and other people that I work with daily think will be really great. It's just waiting for sort of it to teeter and fall off the edge of when industries are really going to say, yes, this is something we need to do. And it's something, you saw JP Morgan. At first it was Bitcoin's a fraud, and now they have a very significant blockchain focus and really cryptocurrency. So it's a time game, I think, for blockchain right now, that we're early, and we just have to wait for the time. And when leaders and the media and whoever it may be, kind of that switch gets flipped, and they kind of take to it and say, you know what, this could really change what we're doing business wise and really democracy wise, culturally wise.
Very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the North Texas Blockchain Alliance. I know this is something that means a lot to you. You were one of the founding members of that. So what is the North Texas Blockchain Alliance, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we're a community group. We're a nonprofit of individuals who all have a fascination with blockchain, whether it be just starting learning, building products, actually having a up and running profitable business using blockchain solutions. it's a large group on Facebook. We have a group page, but then we also have an office downtown, which serves as an incubator. So it's a place where all those thought leaders and people who are working on businesses, who they're working, like I work a lot in the education space. I work on implementation of smart contracts. And then people who are really deep into the technology and are influential in those worlds of writing protocols and being the people that are building blockchain, not only the solutions, but the infrastructure that is providing those abilities for solutions. And so we have a space downtown at WeWork. We have open office hours for anyone to come visit, ask questions, sit, think, try different things. It's a great place for an entrepreneur if you have an interest in blockchain. I spend a lot of time down there just talking about maybe we can use it for this, maybe we can solve this problem this way, and maybe one or two of us go and tries it and it works or it doesn't. And it's just a great thought leadership place.
Over 1,500 members?
Online, yeah.
Online,
and
that is amazing.
So we also have different working groups that we've rolled out. So legal, oil and gas, finance, blockchain for good, that have different working sections around town and meetups.
Fantastic. Okay, we have to talk about it. The hackathon team,
Yes.
okay, because I brought it up at the beginning of the show. So tell me about the hackathon team that you're a part of.
So 3 people in the NTBA, North Texas Blockchain Alliance, who I'm good friends with, are putting together a team. We are bringing a subject matter expert from Montana who is an expert in the ranching and agriculture industries. Both she's educationally trained and she also grew up on a family-owned ranch. And so we're going to Wyoming, University of Wyoming. They are really establishing themselves as a space for blockchain innovation and cryptocurrency. And so we're going to Wyoming to win the hackathon. Solve.
What's a hackathon?
So that's
Who
my
you
next
hacking?
question. What do you? I'm doing a poll. What do you believe that a hackathon is?
Honestly, I have to tell you, I did not know what a hackathon was, but if I had to guess, it would be a group of people that would come together in a controlled environment to try to hack into something or hack a program. I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's what I think of for sure.
That's what most people think. So that's I was with the NTBA, and we were talking about putting on a hackathon, and they're telling us we need to get liberal arts people, we need to get business people, we need to expand this just outside of developers. That's how we're really going to start solving problems. And so I said, I think to attract these people, the first thing we need to do is clarify that it's not a space where we're going to hack into a system. And I've never lived that down. They continue to tease me like, oh, are you going to Wyoming to hack into the University of Wyoming system? But that's what a lot of people outside those rooms think a hackathon is. But in reality, you're hacking together something. So you're solving a problem using a piece of technology.
Well, that is awesome, Lacey. I'm glad I learned something new. The producer of our show is laughing at me right now, too. So there you go. You guys got to embarrass me a little bit today. That's awesome. As we wrap up the show today, Lacey, I know you mentioned a book earlier that had meaning to you. But what is the most valuable book on leadership that you've read so far? And what was your takeaway that's really helped or been most valuable to you as a leader?
We talked about Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, which of course is the book really of my demographic. But probably the most, her message of just, you've got to sit at the table, and you sitting, when you come to a meeting and you sitting on the side in a chair trying to be part of the meeting isn't working for you. And I think allowing you to see that, like, you need to be an advocate for yourself. And even though you're at the meeting and you're sitting off to the side, that's still not being an advocate. Like, you need to sit at the table, you need to give input. And I think really like that permission to do that was so impactful for people, specifically women, of that, like, yeah, I do need to sit at the table. And that's my biggest goal with teaching people about blockchain, is that you do need to learn about this technology, and it can be so significant for you for when you are at the table and your boss or your partner or your client, someone is going to bring up blockchain. It is inevitable at this point that someone in business at your office is going to bring it up. And just you sitting there and saying, oh yeah, I know a little bit about blockchain, and putting yourself out there, and you don't know everything about blockchain. No one will tell you they do. But just having just that little piece of knowledge to just set you ahead and set you in that spot can really take your career to the next level. You don't need to be writing code to use blockchain to help you where you are at professionally.
Lacey, it has just been fantastic to have you on our podcast today. Just really admire just your grit and wanting to go and mine. See, I'm going to use that word, but to go mine just new spaces and to take chances. Just hugely impactful, I think, to our group and to our listening audience to hear your story. We hope you had fun. We sure did. And we just can't thank you enough for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a great time.
So, Dr. Blair, as we wrap up every show, we've got to get the answer to the illustrious trivia question of the day. So what is it?
Yeah, this is kind of relevant because this leader was very, very familiar with failure, and yet managed to become a great innovator of his generation. And I'm talking about the wonderful hero of many technology people, I guess, Thomas Alva Edison. And we use some of his stuff all the time, right? Yeah. Still today.
Excellent. Well, thanks for sharing. Folks, that's a wrap for our podcast today. On behalf of the Carrington Group, the International Student Foundation, and our special guest, Lacey Shrum, this is Tyler Tolman wishing you all a good day and a great week. Remember this, that if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you are a leader. Have a great week.
Legends in Leadership is brought to you by ISF and Carrington Group. ISF is committed to leadership development for aged-out foster care and orphan youth. ISF's mission is to transform these youth into tomorrow's leaders with scholarships, mentoring, and leadership training. Google International Student Foundation to learn more. Carrington Group is a family office with a passion for helping business leaders and their families make smart choices and fulfill their highest aspirations. Google Carrington Group Dallas, Texas to learn more.
Securities offered through Regulus Advisors, LLC. Member FINRA/SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Regal Investment Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors are affiliated entities. Carrington Group and this broadcast are independent of Regulus Advisors and Regal Investment Advisors.